Insecurity is not just a woman's thing. I think men struggle with being insecure just as much as women. It just reflects in a different way. I think men are far more sensitive than we understand as women. I think men don't even understand how sensitive they are. So sensitive. You have a wife that tells their kids, oh gosh, I can't buy you that. We can't afford it. That's a dagger to your husband's heart. Because to a husband, they hear, you don't make enough. You don't provide enough. We can't afford it means you're not good enough. I learned real quick, the words out of my mouth don't come, we can't afford it. Nope, those don't come out of my mouth no more. I will never put my husband down that way and make him sensitive and insecure. Never, not that way. I didn't even realize it. Who knew? Who knew that saying to your child, you can't have that, we can't afford it? Who knew? Any men in this group want to confirm what I just said? That if your wife says we can't afford that, you immediately take it as a put down, yep, okay, the men are starting to speak up. Yep, true, facts. These are the men confirming. Anything else that your wife might say? Another man speaks up, says absolutely true. Let's talk about this. When I say that a man needs respect and they're super sensitive, they take things to heart. If you attack in any way without even meaning to attack who they are as a leader, as a provider, if you criticize even the slightest, most area that touches an insecure place in them without even meaning to, you're putting them down. Here's another thing while I'm waiting for the guys to speak up and chat about some certain places that they felt where it was a dagger to the heart. My husband was not a man he would never come at me about, just so I can confirm here, so many women are sitting here saying, I didn't know that. I had no clue. Just saying we can't afford that. So many women are saying, I didn't know it either. I didn't know it either, guys, until God said it. Here's another thing. My husband was a man of very few words. His garage was very important to him, and he would just casually, in a drive-by conversation, say something about something that I would go out and just dump in the garage. He would just say something, casually about, well, you put that out here, blah blah blah, something about, I didn't realize that anytime I put something in his space, he felt disrespected. It bothered him that I was doing something and it hurt him. God took me out in the garage one day and he said, Sheila, you have no clue how much it's hurting your husband that this box of stuff is sitting here. Every time he walks out there, it's a dagger to his heart because he said it. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, what do you mean he said it? I don't remember him saying it. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. He did say it. He said it more than once. You going to do something with this box? Where do you want me to put this box? Can you go through this box? I'd be like, oh, yeah, I'll get to it. 2 years later, still sitting there. But that garage was his place. It's his workspace. And I was disrespecting something that was important to him. When you overspend money, especially, or disrespect money, or treat them differently for money, because they're head of the home and they take on that responsibility, we can really hurt them with careless spending, with or being too controlling with that money. Oh my gosh. Do you know? Oh, let's just talk about how horrible of a person I was. I don't understand, and I'm not even going to try to understand why I would go through the bank account and I would yell at him for everything that he spent. I don't know why. Don't ask me. I don't know. I was horrible. I just, you spent $12 on Starbucks. You shouldn't be buying your friends that. Oh my gosh, what a horrible person I was. But I did. How disrespectful that I would treat him that way. And a lot of women do it. I would put my stuff in his space, and then he would casually ask me. He would even offer, you guys, do you need me to go through this box for you? Do you need me to put it somewhere? He would offer to do it for me, and I would just ignore him. Ignoring him, another huge thing that we can do to our spouses, especially if you have a husband who has learned that talking to you is taking their life in their own hands. Correcting you, criticizing you, standing up for themselves is going to be like an all-out war. That was me. How dare him say anything? It was going to get my hackles in a. Whew. So he learned. He learned he had to approach me very casually in a quiet, sensitive way. He had to learn that if he really was upset about something, he had to figure out a way to say it or not say it at all, which was really sad. So he would just say it in a casual way, hey, So it was God sat me down and said, Sheila, I want you to take every single thing your husband says and write it down. And I need you to pay attention. He's a man of few words. That's what God said. He is a man of few words, but they are powerful and mighty words. He doesn't just say anything for no reason. If he walks in and says one sentence, you take it seriously, just like you would if your boss walked in the door and said, oh, that coffee pot, that looks kind of dirty. How long is it going to go before it's cleaned? Would you ignore your boss, or would you get up and go clean the coffee pot? If your boss walked in and said, "Hey, when are you going to pay that bill? It's overdue." Would you ignore your boss? You would never. Why? Because you respect your boss, and it's expected of you to take everything your boss says seriously. And I was not doing that with my husband. I was so comfortable in just ignoring him and thinking to myself, if he really has an issue, he'll demand it from me. The chat is private. I'm recording. My little recording is on a black screen, not anywhere. Nothing is seen or heard, just me. Your husband, women, your husband absolutely needs to know you hear him. You are listening, even if you want to dispute it, even if you want to say, hey, I have a problem with that, you do it in a respectful way. If you want to argue and you are knowing that you're getting up in your feelings, you go to God. There are things that I know, that I know, that I know, that I know, I'm not going to change my husband's mind, and I don't agree. And there's no sense in me going to him. I go to God. And I let God figure it out. I say, God, that's his point. This is my point. And I'm putting this in your hands. One of us needs to relent, and I'm letting you be the decide. You, God, are going to decide who to be the judge. And I'm trusting you. And that's how I handle those really difficult situations. But I let my husband know. I let my husband know. It's so important that I let my husband know. I'm listening to you, Jimmy. I'm listening to you. And if this is wrong, then God's going to be the one that corrects you. I'm going to go along with what you're saying. Now, I'm not talking about breaking the law. I'm not talking about abuse or harm or anything like that. I'm talking about, major purchase. You know what I mean, guys? Now, there's things that my husband asks me that I know I should be doing, and one of them was health insurance. Our health insurance went sky high. Oh my gosh, sky high. And he's been saying to me, we need to find a different health insurance. And I've been so overwhelmed with the ministry and just everything, the magazine. And I'm just like, and I said to him this morning, I said, I know that I need to do this. I know I'm not listening to you and I'm not figuring it out. It's something that my brain just cannot tackle right now. And I said, just give me time. And that's how I talk to my husband. And I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. But I needed him to know I hear him. I hear him. I respect him. And I admitted I'm not doing what you asked. I know I'm not doing what you asked. And it's not right. Ladies, we need to learn how to talk to our husbands, respect our husbands, validate them. That's building them up, and that's being the helpmeet that they need us to be. And we do it in a tone, and we do it in a place of love. And if you're not there, then you need to go to God and you need to get yourself there so you can. And if you can't, it's okay. You tell your spouse, I have to go to God. I've got to get myself into a respectful place where I'm not hurt, I'm not offended, I'm not in my pride, I'm not in whatever I'm feeling. I'm being selfish right now, and I need some time, and then I'll come and talk to you. I know your spouse will appreciate that. How do you have hard financial conversations? Well, let's just talk about my hard financial conversations were all out of alignment. Honest to God, I was so out of alignment because I was in my pride. I was in control. I was in disrespect. I was in, um, I was in such a horrible place with my spouse. So when we had those hard financial conversations, okay, so it was a joke. You'll need to let me know if I need to edit that out that I said your name. Um, so basically, I was in such a bad place myself that I was creating the hard financial conversations. You guys understand that? So for some of you, you're like these hard financial conversations, but you're the one creating it. You're the one who is not hearing God. You know, I'm just sharing my situation. It turned out that after I started hearing God and started understanding, I found out something that I didn't know. Do you know that as head of the home, that God was speaking to my husband about how to financially lead our family? Never crossed my mind that, my husband who wasn't praying, wasn't talking to God, was actually hearing God on financial decisions. And it was God all along putting that decision on my husband. And I'm not talking about, fruitless spending, but I'm talking about certain decisions that I was just like, no, 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 that's ridiculous. But guess what? It turned out to be God, because God decided, I'm going to speak to your husband because he's the head of the home. And I'm put this on his heart that that's what he should do. And I was disrespecting my husband and God. So when I learned how to submit, not only was I submitting to my husband, I was submitting to God and God's wishes and desires. So it's really important that we understand that, even if your spouse is not following and is in sin, we're all in sin. We're all in sin. Do you understand? We all make sinful choices. So to say that, there's no way that God would speak and lead your spouse with financial decisions because they're, in sin, you need to know whether you need to know whether what they're doing is from God, and you do that through prayer and checking your own heart first. Because a lot of things that I found out that I was against with my spouse had to do with the fact that I was out of order and I was not hearing from God because of my pride and my control. And I didn't want to spend certain money on certain things. It just was irritating me. But it turned out that my husband was hearing from God, and I would have never known that hadn't I gone and sat with God myself. So you take your concerns first to God. You check your heart, you check your motives. You let him clean your heart out. Okay? You don't go get with your girlfriends and let them reaffirm that you're right, he's wrong. You don't do that. You can go to a prayer partner and say, pray with me. Pray with me that if there's anything in my heart that I'm just not feeling, especially if your spouse is really fighting you on something, okay? And they're really adamant that they want to do something a certain way. And as long as it's not illegal, are we supposed to submit? It takes a lot of prayer and a lot of time spent with God to find out. It's really important about situations like that. So I don't want to touch too much on the financial, but these are situations that you have to get with God first about your own heart, and then you should be able to sit down with your spouse and say, this might not be something that we can come in agreement on, not because I don't want to. You want to be respectful. You don't want to be critical and criticize them and make them feel like you just tell them you're struggling and you need more time. You need more time, you need more understanding, and you need to be open. A lot of times we're closed-minded and we don't want to hear. And that's really sad when we don't want to hear. And that might be the issue right there. We have judged our spouse that they're in sin and we don't want to hear them anymore. We don't want to hear a thing that they say. They're lost, they're blind, they're deceived, and there's no way that they can make financially sound decisions. And yeah, you're right. You better believe that a lot of times they make unbiblically unsound decisions in that lost place. But that might not be a battle we can fight. It might be something they're going to do. And it's something that God needs to deal with them with. So, any other areas that we as women can speak and talk about? Ooh, parenting. You got a spouse? This is so big with me, guys. And God had to zip my lips and shut me up. One day, just sitting in the living room, my son opens up his mouth, says something really horrible, right? My husband, he says it to my husband. My husband starts to speak. Now, me, being the mama bear, protective woman, I jump in over the top of my husband and start correcting my child. Don't you speak to your father. I'm thinking I'm doing great, right? I'm doing great. I'm defending my husband. I'm correcting my child. But what I did was I overstepped because my husband was being given an opportunity to talk to his child and correct and parent him. And I was butting in. And I still kept, I have to catch myself, you guys, because I lead immediately out of feelings and emotions. Talking over your spouse, interrupting your spouse, especially if you're a woman and you're a talker, big disrespect. Big disrespect. If your husband is parenting and they tell you, I grounded him, he needs to stay in his room, and they leave the house and you let the child out, don't follow. Even if you think what they did was a little bit too harsh, you don't overstep. You go to your spouse and you say, hey, it's been an hour. Give him time to cool off. And you say, hey, do you still want to keep him grounded? Do you really the whole day? Or do you want, let them make it's your choice, but you show them you're respecting. This is your call, your punishment, you know, your spouse, you're divorced and they're living with someone else and they call you and they tell you, I took their this away, I took that away. You respect it. You don't agree with it, but you respect it. Just like if you did something and you ask them to respect it, you know? So you have to kind of be on the same page with your spouse. You have to show them that you're respecting. Interrupting, like I said, interrupting, talking over, you have a contractor come out and they're sitting there trying to talk to your spouse and you're just interrupting and talking over your spouse, criticizing, making fun of your spouse. I used to do that. Tell all his best friends as they were standing around what my husband did. It was so funny. He did this and oh my gosh. Not good. going to your family right in front of your spouse and saying, he did this, he did that, she did this, she did that. Disrespectful. It's not covering. It's not covering. Especially if we had just gotten in a fight or argument or something in the drive over. I couldn't wait to get to that family place and share what my husband just did, because I needed validation that I was right, he was wrong. Not a good thing. No. We have a lot of learning to do, a lot of correction to do. But we need to understand, this is why it's so important that you understand how God created a man, how God created a woman. And we understand as women how we wind up going into places where we want to stifle our men, take their voice away, emasculate them. That scripture that's our curse. Women will want to control their men. That's not exactly one of the ways that the verse says, but the curse that, women will want to, rule, manipulate, control. I can't remember the exact version of how it says, but other versions will say, that's our curse. So we'll want to compete and take their position. And it's something we have to learn not to do. Respect to our husbands is so important. It's how they feel loved, honored, revered. And do you know the word respect, ladies? You're not gonna like this. The word respect is rooted in fear. We're to fear our husbands. I have a teaching on that because I want you to understand, when it says fear, it's a godly fear. When you walk up to a lion, there is a godly respect and fear that you have for that lion, because you understand how God created that lion. You understand the authority, the power that lion has. That's the kind of fear I'm talking about. I'm not talking about that you have fear that, there's a certain type of fear you have for the created original way. You have a fear and respect for the authority fear that we are to have. That is the respect. When God says, you women, you are to respect, you are to have a godly fear of the authority I have placed on your husband as head of home, that you are to submit to. Okay, I hope everyone understands what I just said when I said godly fear. Give me a thumbs up. There's no thumbs down that I know of, because that is an offensive thing. So I have a teaching, it's on the website, about respect. Anytime I talk about respect, I usually go into the word. When you just look it up, go to the scripture, go to BibleHub.com, click on the link, click on the scripture that says, women, you are to respect your husbands. Click on the word respect. Read the definition. Okay? I didn't make that up. That's not coming from me. Let me see if I can. Learning about respect, and I didn't understand how God could be asking me to fear. And I said, you're going to have to help me with that. You're going to have to help me understand how respect and fear go hand in hand, because my brain wouldn't understand it. So we went to the zoo a few months later, and it was this zoo I'd never been to before. And you could get within 5 feet. Well, you could even get closer. The cages had these big, humongous cages had lions in them, and there was nothing to stop you from walking right up. I mean, just yourself. And this lioness was laying there. She's probably 10 feet into the cage, but I was standing there with my stroller, and she let out this guttural growl, and everything in me, I just grabbed that stroller, started backing up. And I knew there was I knew there was a fence, but her growl just sent these shivers through me. And on the way home, God said, that's the respect I'm talking about. You knew how that lion was created. You knew everything about the DNA, everything about lions. You understand. And that's where respect, and when you understand the authority and what an animal can do, that's what you respect. And so I just, it's a deeper message that we need to understand. When you really grasp, and that's where God took me deep into the understanding of how God created man, the authority. He let God rule this earth with nobody else, just himself, before he created Eve, so he would know who he was. And that was such a powerful message to me, that Adam had to be established in a rightful place with authority before Eve was brought in as his helpmeet. So if she had been created at the same exact time, she would have been contending for that rightful place. She would have been contending as his equal. She would have been contending as, you know, I get to do, there just would have been contending, competition. And that's not how God designed it. He wanted Adam to first establish himself. So a woman will come in and try to take that from a man. It happens all the time. I did it. But when you understand and have that respect for how God created it, I think the fear comes from going against God's creation. Because when you go against your spouse's authority, you should be afraid of what message you're sending to God. You should have that godly fear that you're going against God's will, God's plan, God's purpose, when you're trying to make your husband submit to you and you're trying to, boss your husband around. That's the message I'm trying to get across, that he got to me. That when I disrespect my spouse, I'm disrespecting God. Is respect earned? Well, let's look at it the way God gave you authority. Did you have to earn it? Or were you born into that authority? I want you to really think about that. Do you have to earn something that you were entitled to when you were born? You were born as a man. You inherit that authority. When you married, you inherited that rightful headship as home. Do you have to earn it now? I don't think so. Why would you have to earn something that you were rightfully given? First of all, you don't go and get trained and get a badge that says you've earned it. It's not how God gave it to you. You were born as a man and you married and you took on the title. That's your earning. That's your badge as a husband. So I don't believe it's something that we, as a woman, you're not going to sit there and say, God, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. I'm not going to respect him because he didn't earn my respect, or he lost my respect. And respect, there's so many different levels. So we have to be really careful when we say, that we're not going to respect someone because they lost it and they didn't earn it. We have to be really careful. And men, you have to be super careful that you allow someone to say that you have to prove to them because you lost it. You can't lose. You can't lose what is rightfully yours. You are a child of God. You are a man, and you're a husband. You're qualified from those three aspects. It's nothing that you have to earn to be headship of your home. Okay? And you need to stand on that. And if you have a woman that says to you, a wife that says to you, I don't have to respect you, and I will never respect you again, you know what? They are going against God. They are going against God. And that is something that God has to deal with their hearts. You just keep doing as you were supposed to do. You keep biblically following husbands as you should be, treating your wife as the weaker vessel. You keep loving her. Okay? You do as you're supposed to do, and that opens the door for God to really work. Because if you mistreat her, it's going to make it harder for God to teach her how to respect you. Same way when a husband, same way for standers. It's a lot harder for us women to respect our husbands while they're committing adultery. And God has to really work on our hearts. The more they sin, the more they hurt us, the more they mistreat, the more our heart turns away and does not want to love them, respect them, honor them. Doesn't want it. It's a whole different fear. It's not a godly fear. It's a fear of the pain that they're creating in us. And that's not the type of godly fear I was talking about.